attitude that, you know what, man, I'm doing me and I'm just doing me. You have to surround yourself with people that you know that are better than you. Thousandaires are not hanging out with people that only make $200 a week. They're trying to hang out with millionaires so that can rub off on them so that they can get to that next level. So your vibe attracts your tribe. So if I see my woman hanging out with whores, there's a problem. There is a problem. If you see me hanging out with drug dealers, if I'm not ministering unto them and I'm just building with them, there's a problem. What? In my mind frame and the way I think. And I gave this example last week. If Anton smokes crack and I drink, there better be cracking drinks at that party or I am not going. So we have to walk in alignment. Two cannot walk if not be agreed. So I'm not going to have my woman turn into the right and I'm going straight. There's order. So when he says benevolent dictator, I like that because that's what it is. It's a benevolent dictatorship. See, the Lord demands obedience. There is no question. When you come to him, you got to obey. With men, it's different. With men, you have to know who you are and make sure she submits to you. And how does she does that? She do that with willingness because she see what kind of man you are. And what attracts a high-value, God-fearing woman? A high-value, God-fearing man. It's not hard. This equation is not hard. When we start talking about 1 + 1 = 5, like we do in the Black community, this is what we have. You don't have the white woman as a majority saying, I don't need my man. I can raise my children without a father. But you have it in ours. Right? And one thing I said in the Facebook thing is, when men speak to women, these men are speaking from a place of hurt. So when a woman says something that she needs to help her understand how men are feeling, we attack. So we don't talk to hear, we talk just to talk. We need to talk from a place of not emotional, right? So if I cry, I went to go see The Passion of Christ. I teared up a whole lot. Let a dude try to take my wallet right after that. I'm gonna choke him for 8 seconds. So it doesn't change how I roll. When a man cries too much, then I get what you're saying. There's obviously a problem. You have to understand that because the father is out of the home since 1978, a lot of our children are injured and they're in trauma. They suffer from a lot of PTSD. They internalize. So they don't understand how to articulate themselves. Why? Because they were raised by their mom and usually in bad neighborhoods. So there's so many things, they become numb, so they don't know how to talk. So then the first thing when you step on their J's, I see them J's behind there, Anton, the first thing they want to do is shoot you. This all has a catalyst. We need to start forming that family structure. The woman needs to know her place. And here's one thing I want to say, and I know I said a lot, and then I'm going to break out and let you guys go. Women want the authority of a man. They want the privileges of a woman and the accountability of a child. Think about that. You can't have all three. Your gender is the only gender that say I'm a man and I can take it. And then when you reap the ramifications of what you asked for, why would you do that to a woman? We have to understand our trajectory. We have to understand it. And this is not even a God thing. We all have a position to play. Don't be on second base with hockey sticks. It's not going to work. Look at our structure as the Black community. It's not working. Whatever we're doing is not working. So we have to change. And what Anton is saying about aligning yourself with the right people, he's 100,000% completely correct. That's how you become better people. With that, thank you so much.
We appreciate you, Bolo.
Thank you, brother. Good night, and everybody have a blessed night.
All right, good
Thanks,
night.
fam. What's going on, Elliot? You on?
Hey, what's going on, fam?
What's going
I
on?
appreciate the show, man. Love all the content.
On to Jubilee? What is On to Jubilee?
Oh, that's just the name of my YouTube channel. Hey, appreciate
got
you,
you.
Anton. Hey, man, I emailed you too, man. So you gotta check me out.
Are you a part of the Patreon?
No, I just emailed you from your website.
Oh man, Patreon members get first response, bro. So I
Gotcha. I see the business model. Hey, but thanks, man. Hey, I appreciate the show. I just had a couple comments, man. The first one was about I think you guys talked about men and their emotions. And one of the things I always say as a husband is that, man, husbands have to be emotionally stable. So you can't be running around being emotional. So I always encourage therapy. I always tell other brothers, man, go get a therapist, get a spiritual advisor, go to your friends. You have to be emotionally stable because your wife has to see that stability. You can't be off kilter in your home. Your kids, so if you dealing with a lot of things at work or you're dealing with a lot of other things, you have to get therapy. You have to talk to other men because you can't put that emotional burden on your wife. I mean, that will disintegrate a marriage. And my wife is straight up. She'll say, look, I ain't trying to come home and you all emotional in your feelings. No, that doesn't make me happy. So she wants to see stability. So I always encourage men to make sure that they have those resources outside of their wife. You can share with your wife things, but man, you have to be emotionally stable when you're in your home. That's number one. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the father issue. And then another aspect I think sometimes can be missed is that I've seen a lot of brothers that come and say I'm a great father, but in the meantime, they're dragging their wife. Like, you can't be a great father unless you're trying to be a great husband. Like, that starts first, and then you carry over the fatherhood. I've seen a lot of brothers leave their wife, cheat on their wife, do all these other things, and then say, but I can be a great father. I'm leaving my wife, but I'm a great father. It don't work like that. Like, you have to be honoring the mother, the wife, and then start saying you a great father. So there has to be some nuance to that that we got to talk about as a community.
All right.
I agree with you, fam. I agree with you 100%.
No doubt, no doubt.
All right, we appreciate your support, man.
Hey, appreciate the channel, man. Thanks for all you guys, man. You guys are great.
All right, thank you. What's going on, 5 Minute Buddha? What's going on?
Where did that name come from?
I'm Buddhist.
So there you go.
Yeah, my podcast is 5 minutes. So I'm gonna be real short-winded. First and foremost, I want to say I love your show. I really appreciate everything you guys are doing, and I want to show you guys a lot of gratitude. I was so surprised to see how you guys conduct yourself, and it's just real classy. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I wanted to talk about the father thing. My life's work is dedicated to helping men, and the most wounded relationship in the world is the relationship between the father and the son. But I would like to go even further and say that the most wounded relationship is between the father and all of the children. And the reason being is because when you're a boy and you're transitioning into manhood, your father is supposed to tell you what rules you should break so that you could be challenged. And the examples that I like to use is when you think about some of the best athletes in the world, Venus and Serena Williams, Michael Jordan and James Jordan, Floyd Mayweather and his father, Michael Jackson and his father. Your father is supposed to push you to the edge because he knows you, he created you, you came from him. So he understands your fears in a different way, not only because he was watching you, but because he had them himself as well. And that perspective in itself can save, make, and catapult the child so far. And we don't really comprehend that. So when women push the fathers out of the house, they don't realize all that they're doing. It's more than the provide, the protect, and the procreate. It really, how far can your child go? How much can your child contribute to society? And the father plays such a huge role in that. And it's just something we overlook. And that's just really what I wanted to say. I said thank you earlier.
So let me ask you a question, though. Let me ask you a question. What accountability do the fathers also have as far as their because I'm an advocate for men, and I think that they get a raw deal in a lot of situations, right? But there is a large portion of guys that are out here just being reckless and not participating in the success of their own households, and they are fathering a lot of children with a lot of different women and not taking ownership and responsibility of what it is that they're putting into the atmosphere. What accountability do they have?
I think that we should hold them accountable. I don't disagree with anything you said. What I'm trying to say is that it's a perpetual problem. So if the grandfather wasn't there, it'll affect the father, and the father will affect the son. In Buddhism, we say that when we chant or we pray, we have 7 generations behind us and 7 generations ahead. So I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I'm just saying that the tools that a man can give another man, that a father could give a son, if it's not inside of him, he can't take those actions. And then accountability has to come from your friends, like Bolo was saying earlier when she quoted 1 Corinthians 15, I believe. So I agree with you. I think that the accountability has to be based on who's around you. If you got good people around you, they could save you. I was just talking to my best friends there in LA, and I told them, as much as I want to be a great dad, I pray that my kids have as good friends as you have been to me. I'm more concerned about who my kids hang around so that just in case anything happens to me, that the people around them could protect them as much as I would have protected them. So I agree with your point, very much so. I'm just saying that it's a perpetual thing. So the burden of performance is on us. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
I would definitely appreciate you, Buddha.
You
Yeah, thanks for the support.
No problem.
All right. Going on, Martinez.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen?
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the show
What's going on,
again.
fam?
Doing good. I just first off, I wanted to ask. First off, I wanted to say congratulations to Courtney on the individual platform. I saw the last video with you talking to your child's father.
Mhm.
Like that one was a great one.
Thank
That
you.
was a great video for that one.
Thank you.
So leading on to that one, the first question I want to ask is that to Anton and JR with that one, it was like, when did the both of you guys feel honestly that she would have an opportunity to reach the masses of the women in regards to you guys giving her individual platform and helping her with that?
You want to answer that first, JR?
Yeah. It was from the moment she called in, and I think we said that when we did the rollout video. One thing that I noticed is that she had a different point of view, a different perspective. So, like I thought it was great, and then I actually had conversations with her that was outside of the show where I seen that she had some growth. You know, that she wasn't always the woman that she was. So we also had a conversation was that I think that people are gonna receive you like to be much different. Like once they do hear your story, you know, once you put yourself up on a public platform, and once you have a story that aligns with how you are currently, then I think that people can like relate better and more. So like when she rolled that out, I knew people was gonna look at her differently, both men and women, and like especially the women, because now she seems like she's like a person that's gone through a struggle, and she overcame that struggle. So you know, for me, just having conversations with her, I didn't know what to really expect, but when you have conversations with people, you can actually learn a lot.
I knew Courtney was a star the minute that I seen her. I tell her all the time. She'll tell you. I tell her all the time. Yo,
That's
you
great.
you're gonna be bigger than me. You're gonna be bigger than any of us. So my job is to make sure that she become the greatest ever, and that we empower her. We just putting the boosters behind her and the camera work and all of that. She doing the work herself. So I knew she was a star immediately. Me and Jared had that conversation immediately after I first seen her. Like, yeah, she out of there.
Yeah.
I told him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said on an episode about a month ago, I said just give her time. Like she's not gonna reach everybody immediately, but when you give her the opportunity with the platforms, people she gonna speak, give her time, and she'll be able to get the opportunity to reach the masses. And the next thing I'm gonna say is that to Rilla, like I don't know if you've seen it through the post, but when you were talking about, you know, men dating from to marry, the explanation that you gave to that, I sent the donation to you for that because it's like, listening to the show, Rilla, you give me iffy at times. We looking to see if whether or not what side you rocking with, but when you gave that explanation of that, I rock with you on that. So I had to give you the donation to rock with you. And the last thing I have to say before I go is that I don't the men and Courtney, when they were discussing the whole platonic relationship thing, I'm a firm believer of what they were discussing, where it was like, I'm a firm believer of men shouldn't be platonic friends with women unless they agreed to the courtship.
Mankind knew that they cannot
Because
change society.
my
So
whole
instead
thing
of
is that
reflecting on themselves, they blamed
if
the
it's not a courtship involved, the woman is gaining everything that she can gain from a man that she don't have to earn. And at the end of the day, we're not giving women the ability to earn what it is they want. And what I mean by that is that as a man, as a man, if he gets to the apex of where he is, the apex of his intelligence, his wisdom, his finances, whatever. If a woman comes along and she decides that she does not want to date you, or she doesn't want you to court her, but she still keeps you around, she still, as a friend, has access to that wisdom, that financial stability, and et cetera, et cetera. And me personally, as a man, I feel as if you want access to that, you have to earn it. And if you don't
how does she earn it? Tell me how she earns it. Give me specifics.
As I mentioned, she earns it through the way of courtship.
What does that look like?
If she allows me to court her, which is, I have no problem if we're in a stage of courtship. If she wants to do the friendship thing in the beginning, I'm fine with that. As long as we agreed that there's courtship behind that. I'm courting you to become my woman, eventually my fiance, and then my wife.
But what is it? Does that include sex? Does that include what all does that include?
It includes whatever the two individuals involved decide that to include.
No. You got to be specific. What does that include?
Okay. So we're going to do that. Okay. So in circumstances, it does include sexual interaction. It does include that because at the end of the day, if a man's going to court you and you're going to keep that man around, you have to give him something that gives him the ability to keep him around.
Nope. Wrong. Dead wrong. Dead wrong. 1,000%.
You explain to me how that's dead wrong.
It's dead wrong. Because and this is one of the reasons why I don't believe in dating. Because, I'm very traditional and I study people. I study different cultures. I was talking to an Indian woman and then an Indian couple earlier today, and the traditions by which they live, even here in America, the way in which they subject themselves. And she's here, her parents are there, but her parents are still handpicking the exact man that she is going to marry today. So ultimately, what that translates into is a way and a standard by which they go about doing things. The way that we do things here in our culture in America, and we don't really have a culture, we just living by the seat of our pants, is that we do what we want to do when we want to do it. And so there is no standard. She got to do all of this, you got to do all of that, whatever. We leading with love, we leading with emotion, we leading with this, and we leading with that. When we've already proven that that is an unsuccessful way to be able to effectively vet whether or not somebody is supposed to be in a long-term marriage, let alone a relationship, right? So again, you telling the woman to waste the best years of her life trying to figure out whether or not she's gonna keep you around, and that's not an accurate thing. And as a matter of fact, the apex of what a man is to become is very much later in life. Is way later. Your earning potential, your best years as far as earning potential, and we're often judged by our ability to provide and protect, is probably somewhere in your 50s or 60s, to be honest with you. So if you take that into consideration based off of what you said, then that's not an accurate picture that's being drawn as far as what the expectation should be for dating and marriage.
All right, Martinez, final thoughts. You there, Martinez? I don't know what happened. All right, I'm gonna take you off.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Final thoughts.
Yeah. What based on what it is that you're saying, Anton, is that I feel you in regards to what it is you say in regards to that.
I'm gonna have to take you off. Teenager's sound is coming in.
Hello?
Yeah, your sound messed up, man. Take you off. You there?
Hello?
You can't hear us? Yeah, I'm gonna take them off.
Yeah, you gotta wrap that up, Jay.
All right, you guys. I'm gonna bring Kevin Samuels to the show.
What's going on, man?
What's going on? How you doing, Kevin? Welcome to the show.
I'm well.
What's up, Hump?
How's everybody doing tonight? Oh my
Great.
God. Instagram, what a night.
I'm gonna have to catch the replay. You know how that goes.
Oh yeah. About on World Star. We're talking about submission. And I'm always fascinated that the most Christian people seem to have such a problem with the term submission. And I define it as very simply this: respectful cooperation. And but oftentimes I hear this in our community, that I'll submit to a man who is A, B, or C. I'll submit to a man who's my man. I'll submit to this. But here's the issue with that. The only group of women who have conditional submission, but you want holistic protection. You're supposed to submit to the authority of your man individually, true. But what about the men of your group that are supposed to be the ones that actually you're covering? And what I find is most women really, when it gets right down to it, for whatever reason, they don't trust that they don't trust that men can do the job better than they can. And I'm always fascinated that is my screen frozen?
I believe
Yes,
so.
it's frozen.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated that it always seems to be that way. And I wonder, yeah, let me turn that off. If you don't allow the men the right to lead you other than your man, how do we ever expect to become a competitive group of people?
Do you think that women are thinking singularly and not thinking as a group, and maybe that's one of the things that's affecting the way in which they move as far as that conditional? Because I'm more aligned with what very early in the show, it was a debate about why is it conditional, and at what point do you start to see submission as an option? Is it based off of when you get married? Is it based off of when you first start interacting with a man in courtship, or is it just based off of how you see things in general as far as your alignment with men in general, right? Do you see that as more of an issue because women see submission singularly tied to a man that she's going to be in a relationship or marry, or is that just conditioned for them not to be submissive in a general sense?
I think that our women see submission tied to sex. They see submission tied
earlier,
to sex. They see our submission tied to sex. They don't see submission tied to the overall image of the men. I mean, So if I'm, in our community, the overall, I'll just say the largest determining factor whether or not a black woman's going to listen to you is whether or not she's attracted to you. If she wouldn't screw you, she wouldn't have sex with you, she ain't going to really value much what you got to say. It's very primitive. So, and that extrapolates all the way out through things. My show has proven that, if nothing else, that the men that the women want, they'll be more apt to listen to them. But here's the problem. You can be married to your man, and he can be alpha as fuck. He can be alpha, but he is still one man. He is not the police force, the fire department. He's not the surgeon. He's not the dentist. He's not the pastor. He's not the plumber. He's not the electrician. See, so when people submit conditionally, singularly,
before dating and marriage.
All right, I'm gonna take.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated that the most Christian people seem to have such a problem with the term submission. And I define it as very simply this: respectful cooperation. And but oftentimes I hear this in our community, that I'll submit to a man who is A, B, or C. I'll submit to a man who's my man. I'll submit to this. But here's the issue with that. The only group of women who have conditional submission, but you want holistic protection. You're supposed to submit to the authority of your man individually, true. But what about the men of your group that are supposed to be the ones that actually you're covering? And what I find is most women, really, when it gets right down to it, for whatever reason, they don't trust that men can do the job better than they can. And I'm always fascinated that is my screen frozen?
I believe
Yes,
so.
it's frozen.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated that it always seems to be that way. And I wonder, yeah, let me turn that off. If you don't allow the men the right to lead you other than your man, how do we ever expect to become a competitive group of people?
Do you think that women are thinking singularly and not thinking as a group, and maybe that's one of the things that's affecting the way in which they move as far as that conditional? Because I'm more aligned with what very early in the show, it was a debate about why is it conditional, and at what point do you start to see submission as an option? Is it based off of when you get married? Is it based off of when you first start interacting with a man in courtship? Or is it just based off of how you see things in general as far as your alignment with men in general, right? Do you see that as more of an issue because women see submission singularly tied to a man that she's going to be in a relationship or marry? Or is that just conditioned for them not to be submissive in a general sense?
I think that our women see submission tied to sex. They see submission tied
earlier,
to sex.
JR.
They see our submission tied to sex. They don't see submission tied to the overall image of the men. I mean, so if I'm, in our community, the overall, I'll just say the largest determining factor whether or not a black woman's going to listen to you is whether or not she's attracted to you. If she wouldn't screw you, she wouldn't have sex with you, she ain't going to really value much what you got to say. It's very primitive. So, and that extrapolates all the way out through things. My show has proven that, if nothing else, that the men that the women want, they'll be more apt to listen to them. But here's the problem. You can be married to your man, and he can be alpha as fuck. He can be alpha, but he is still one man. He is not the police force, the fire department. He's not the surgeon. He's not the dentist. He's not the pastor. He's not the plumber. He's not the electrician. See, so when people submit conditionally, singularly, that's not a community. And what benefit and what incentive does it give the other 9 men if only one's going to get respect and submission, supposedly, and the rest are just going to get mild disdain or conditional? Because here's the thing: we're expected to be. Let's be honest. We're expected to be have a certain level of manhood for women across the board. If something happens and we're on a boat, women and children first, right? It didn't say husbands. And they'll say women and children first. And the single men, you can go. Men are still expected to do their job. And we have removed what women are expected to do for their community. What do black women owe the black community?
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Kevin, on dating with intent to marry? Like, what are your thoughts on both from a men's perspective and from a woman's perspective?
Okay, well, the provision, I'll say from a woman's perspective, from the provision that she's already a wife, that's the purpose. I had this conversation earlier that dating for women and men are 2 different outcomes. Women have a much shorter clock to get the major pieces of their life together. And because of how the world is, women are not afforded the same amount of opportunities like men. You got to pick sooner. So dating with intent to marry is far more important for women because they pay a higher price, in the sense of, once a woman has children and things like that, it can substantially impact her overall sexual marketplace value. With men, it's different because I firmly believe in today, between the ages of 18 and 30, it is more the exception than the rule that the average man is really ready to take on the responsibility of leadership, headship, and husband. From even if it's, and it's not even a matter of necessarily money, because we have delayed adulthood maturation so much that, I feel bad when I see a lot of young men trying to marry young women, because I'm like, unless I talk to a young guy, I'm like, and understand where his head is at, how's this thing supposed to work? Now here's where the problem becomes, because of what women today want from a relationship. Many women don't want to do the long-term investment of a relationship. They want the benefits now. And I think I heard you say a man doesn't reach his financial stride until like he's 45 or 55. That's when you get the benefit. But are women dating with the intent to stay married? Are men
dating?
Is
that something that needs to be groomed in them, or is that something that we need to change culturally?
Both. The answer is both. It needs to be groomed in them. It needs to be changed culturally. But how do you change it? Right? We're in the black community, in my opinion, we got a massive chicken or egg scenario on our hand. Because in the last since 1965, we've gone away from the things that have traditionally worked for us. So we've got 2-3 generations of people who were not raised valuing the things that our ancestors did. But I don't think it's a very dangerous situation to just say these people are done. These people are scrapped. We can't do nothing with them. People without hope are dangerous. People without hope are dangerous. And the world does not want to see, especially a group of men without hope. Men who are, I mean, go back to not hunter-gatherer, go back to primitive civilization. When we were living in villages or communes, the most destructive thing you could see on the horizon was a roving band of men. They're tied to nothing except their own survival. So how do we make a world to where the guys who are builders can keep what we have? What if we're out doing while we're out doing what we need to do? If you got men who are roving around tied to nothing, who just want to rape, pillage, and burn, the nihilistic side. So we are coming into a place where I think, I've said it before and I said it again, for the people who are going to raise children up to be more family oriented, valuing the nuclear family, that kind of stuff, that's going to be the replacements. What do we do with the people between the ages of 18 and roughly 40 right now? Because those people got a lot of life in them. They got a lot of life in them. And I can't just see throwing all these folks away. So I'm coming up, I have this term called an executive marriage, where I can see people basically sitting down, hammering out a deal one-to-one, where it's almost like a partnership that where love and all that stuff, you know, how much I feel about that, comes later. That's why I'm a big fan of get back with your ex-husband or your baby daddy. I'm a huge fan of that because I talk to at least 3 people